ever been on all of this stuff. More potential subscribers, more Twitter followers, more of literally everything. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's gotten easier, right? But it does mean that there's more opportunity to succeed, more niches to get into, more of everything if you're willing to put in the work for it. Looking back at my career, I've identified 5 key pillars of content creation that are critical to growing and succeeding in this business. So what do you focus on here? Here they are. First, we have mindset. We're going to learn a way to set goals that is really a total game changer. I'm also going to go over some common pitfalls and how to avoid them so that you really don't waste any of your time. Next, we have content, of course, right? I'll be covering the foundational skills that you should really first master as a streamer and teach you how to quickly produce content and then test those new concepts. Your community, you'll learn how to position yourself in a way that people know what to expect from you. I'm also going to tell you why it's so important to stand out from a crowd, as well as how to do that. Marketing, this is where you're really going to start to move the needle. This is where you reach people. You're going to learn about establishing your brand and how to build funnels across multiple platforms so that you can efficiently grow your audience, which is step numero uno. And then, of course, business. This is a business, right? Especially if you want to end up doing it full time and make a career out of this. How do streamers even make money? You're going to learn about different revenue streams. I'm also going to tell you how to know when you're ready to go full time. That's why we got the Supreme Money Guy. That's the whole point of this, right? You just start shooting money in the air. That's the dream of every streamer. Basically. No? Oh, okay. Maybe just me. Almost there. Don't worry. We're going to be going over a quick dive of each of these. So we're going to have some tips and information in all 5 of these areas as we go through it. All right? So with that, let's start with mindset. There's 3 main topics in mindset that we're going to be talking about here today. The first is finding your why, how to set goals, and then the third, how to avoid pitfalls. When it comes to finding your why, the key to doing this really successfully for the long term is having something that drives you and then actually knowing what that reason is. It can be fun and spontaneous to throw stuff up, but then what's that key thing that you're going to keep going back to as you continue to create content? I've seen so many drop off of this. It is hard work, so you need to have something that drives you and something that's going to keep you at it, and understanding that goes a long way. When you're feeling down, you're feeling discouraged, I can't tell you how many cycles I've been through over the last decade of all of this. It's important to be able to think back on those reasons for your strength, whether it's because you know what content you want to create, it's a love for a game, you wouldn't be happy doing anything else, you want to be financially successful, or you really just love building communities, you love interacting with your community, other communities. You need to have some reason why here. Now I want to talk about setting a framework for your goals that goes alongside that. The SMART framework is one of the best ways to set goals that are realistic and achievable and really going to be working for you. This is such a key aspect to it. This stands for specific, something that's actually you can put more concrete information around. So, for example, I'm going to start working out. I'm going to work out later, right? That's very vague in terms of what it could be versus I'm going to do 30 minutes of cardio 3 times every week. How much more concrete is that of something that you can actually then go out and execute on? If you have vague goals, you're far less likely to follow through on whatever that is, even if you tell other people or even if you just tell it to yourself. Measurable, meaning quantifiable. An example of this, I'm going to focus on growing my social media versus I'm going to add 500 Twitter followers by the end of July. And by having a measurable target, you can then measure your progress. You can also more easily plan for how you're going to reach that and make sure that you're actually executing on Twitter to do something about that. Have something that's attainable. Making sure that your goals are realistic is a key. An example of this is going to, maybe you're just getting into this and you're saying, I'm going to be the top streamer on all of Twitch versus I'm going to hit Twitch affiliate. I also don't want to necessarily hinder you. Dream big, do what you want to do with it. But when it comes to goal setting, it's important to have goals that you know that you can achieve. This is going to help keep you motivated and keep on keeping you inspired as you go through and hit them. Having something that's relevant are here. Is the time that you're spending on whatever it is, whatever this goal is, does it fit into your bigger goals, into your overall strategy of what you want to do? An example of this is, are you going to read, I'm going to read 3 books, which can be good. It can be valuable. It can give you information for the long term, but also versus I'm going to edit 3 new videos, three new VODs that are original, new, whatever it might be. That could be much more applicable to your current situation and what your bigger goals and strategy might be right then and now. And then finally, having them being time-oriented, which I've mentioned a little bit as we've gone through some of these, you might have noticed. Give yourself a deadline to hold yourself accountable. Accountability is so big in all of this. And to also just help you stay organized. An example of this being, I'm going to hit 10,000 followers on Twitch versus I'm going to hit 1,000 followers on Twitch by the end of the month. Maybe you're 100 off, and you can have that be an attainable goal that you can even have the audience on board with as well. A lot there when it comes to setting goals, finding your why with it. And finally, let's talk about avoiding pitfalls. Streaming as a career is not an easy job. You have to sit there for hours at a time. You can lose focus. Many of you have probably felt this. It can feel very lonely when you're doing this. It can feel very repetitive. We identify 5 steps to help you dodge some of these pitfalls and to stay on top of your game, especially when it comes to the long-term success of this. First of all, exercising regularly. This has been something that's been very big for me. Even if it's just taking my dog out for a walk, that's always been something that's been a staple for me, to just get my legs moving, keep yourself moving. You can be sitting down for so long at one time, right? Scheduling your streams and sticking to a routine. It's good not only for your community, but it's also good for you to keep up with everything. In that same line, actually taking breaks to recharge your energy and your creativity. It can even be within your schedule of what you have for it. Can keep you refreshed as you come back to this every week, every month. Take time with friends and family to maintain some of your core relationships in that same vein. It can be very lonely. It can be very isolating. Have some way to keep in touch and keep in contact. And then finally, reach out to new people to collaborate and network with. You don't know where things are going to go, and you also never know where you might be another year from now, where paths might collide again in the future, even if it doesn't go ahead. You know what I'm saying? A lot of there from mindset. I want to take a second to take one of the questions that we have in the chat. I've been trying to keep an eye on it as we've been going through, and we do have moderators helping to pull some of these as well. So let's go ahead, take a question, see if we have anything specifically around mindset would be really awesome here. And we'll see what we got here. Let's see. Somebody just put a question mark. There you go. Cool. Let's see what we got here. Specifically on mindset would be really cool as well. Oh. Cool. How do you, Genesis asks, how do I interact more when being a shy person? Maybe that would be a good question. Awesome. Let's shoot that one. I guess there's a lot that can go with that. I guess, a big part of that, I think, is just getting out into the world into the space in order to, so I've got some more stuff popping up here. Apologies. Okay, let's answer this. How do I interact more when being a shy person? Right. A big thing with this is you are putting yourself out there. You got to kind of understand that you're putting yourself on a screen. Let's say you had 10 people pop in on your stream. You had 50 people pop in your stream, 100 people. I have always been very shy when it comes to, being in a classroom, being in public speaking, even in a setting like this. It's just a little bit different. It's a little weird. But the biggest thing you can do is build repetition and actually put yourself out there. It can be very awkward. It can be very weird as you're doing it as well. But when you put yourself into some of those situations, even like from going on stage and some of the things that I've done, like, and even just going into the streams in general, like, it can be weird. It can be a bit off-putting, But when you put yourself into it more, then yeah, it can help. I don't really jeez, dude. Oh, you guys chat. Yeah, you can see I'm kind of a shy person sometimes too. But when I first started doing this, a lot of it really was very weak. My voice was very quiet, even when I was doing it, even when I was recording it by myself in my room. But when you record it, you listen back to it, you make improvements on it, that can take you a big step for it. How do you find motivation when your feelings are down? Another question. Uh, Whenever you get kind of the thing is like even if you've gone from 10 people watching to nobody watching, you've gone from 100 people to nobody watching. Again, I've had that experience happen to me many times. You can be put down a lot, especially if you get comments from people saying like, "Oh, you're terrible at this," or they're the ones who are pointing it out. I think one of the best things for me that I always go back to is that if I've got like 50 people that even watch a video, let alone comment on something or like something, or they're in real time, like that's more than I had ever even spoken to in front of people in the first place in real time. And so it's something that's like, it's gone a really long way for me in terms of just keeping myself in that mentality of what that is and then taking it to another step from there. Um, I appreciate all the questions. We're going to take some more also at the end. Just a couple there on mindset. Let's get over to content next. I want to keep going through here. We're going to hit two big points when it comes to content. How do you find your MVP? And then what are some of the fundamental streaming skills that you really need to master? I don't know if you guys have ever heard of an MVP before. This is otherwise known as a minimum viable product in the product world. Is a product it's basically a product that has enough features to attract users to validate a product idea early on. I have tons of examples within my own content. Two of the biggest with that being that are still live today, my YOLO series as well as my top plays series. On my top plays with just 3 clips is where I started. I was basically pulling in the content myself. I went out and actually hunted for it, and it was terrible compared to where it is at now, literally 500 episodes later. Years and years later, I've kept on refining the process. Now it's a steady show. I spend an hour a week on it or so, and it brings in millions of views across the playlist and continues to do so for me. I definitely get it. It is hard work to put something out in the first place. Great can often be the enemy of good as you're kind of going through it. It's far better, though, to get something out, see the community reactions, and then iterate or tweak that over time. The final product is really never going to be done. The truth is, even with where my stuff is now, I'm still constantly trying to improve it. You think I'm done with my content, my streams? I literally have new stuff planned for next month that I've been working on for the last few months because I want to keep on taking it to new levels. I want to do huge new things, and it's not going to stay where it's at. My streams, even when I first started out, looking back to the beginning, I was nervous to go live, even like I'm a bit today. Even like what we were just talking about from that last question, it can take a bit to figure out some of the content. But if you don't take the step to go out and do it, you're not going to build the experience. You're not going to build that up. Compared to where I am at now with all of my content, it is crazy to look back at the very beginning in my voice and all the content that I used to do. There's a lot of improvement when it comes to kind of your MVP, but just starting with something. Once you start streaming, what should you then focus on first? Some skills like being comfortable in front of a camera, that comes with experience, while others are going to be a little bit easier to pick up and really focus on day one. Today, we're going to focus on some of the key streaming fundamentals. Here are the skills that you should really work on first. Versatility. This is your kind of overall game plan for handling situations. Starting out, what other streamers you can watch other streamers, see what they do, observe that, see not even what they do, but the different situations that they get into. You can see, do they react funny? Do they react loud? Do they react calm, collected? This is where you want to be true to yourself. But if you have a game plan to deal with some of those situations as they arise with issues before they really arise, it can help you even for when you do feel off. And most importantly, so you don't get knocked off your entire game so the rest of your stream doesn't go to waste. The same thing with stamina. You need to be able to perform at a high level for hours at a time while speaking to an audience. Streaming is a marathon, it is not a sprint. Practicing activities that require long periods of mental concentration, even if it's just practicing your stream itself and taking that as practice, helps to build up your stamina. A replay buffer. As you expand into other areas, you're going to want to have the best moments of your stream readily available. By enabling a replay buffer in OBS, all you have to do is hit a button and it'll save the last 30 seconds or whatever that duration is, and you're good to go. This will save you literally hours of going back through your content, and it can save you 100%, or it can save you so many hours of time. That is why it is a skill, and it is also a reflex that you develop and you remember, as well as even just remembering what that content is, even if it's noting it down, whatever you need to do to frame your other content and ways to think about it. This is how you can get such a leg up on so many creators as well, especially if you can really master this and make it a really fine-tuned skill in your arsenal, as well as talking to yourself. I'm sitting in this room by myself here, right? Of course, we got a lot of people tuning in as well, but in actuality, this really comes in handy when nobody else is there to talk to you, or if even the messages that you're getting aren't necessarily the direction that you want to go with it. You can work on your enunciation, your monologuing skills, anywhere. Record yourself, listen to it, even if you're recording yourself for a video or not. Pay attention to your pronunciation, your cadence, your tone, even what you're saying. How many jokes are you throwing out as you're going through it? How informative are you with your explanations, or details are you going into with it? You can throw out a lot when you do it, but to start, keep talking to yourself until maybe you start to like your own voice, hearing your own voice. Then keep on talking to yourself until you like talking to yourself. In the same way, conversation. And for me, that was like just literally sitting in the shower. Every time I was driving to work, I would turn it off and just start talking, even just like playing it, putting a competitive game on the screen and then just talking over it and explaining what's going on to build that rhythm up. And then in the same vein for that really is conversational skills. There's about 1.5 billion different things that you could talk about, whether it's even by yourself, but it even goes more so when you're talking with other people. Start in your comfort zone though with it. Write down topics that you know that you can have a solid conversation about, especially with others, right? They don't necessarily even have to be game related, although they definitely can be, and that can be a big win. But maybe you secretly love history. Maybe you moonlight as an amateur athlete. What are you interested or excited about talking about in the first place, though? Whatever you put on the list, make sure it's something that you're passionate about, because you are going to be spending a lot of time talking about it, especially live. Once the list is done, start talking about the topics while you're on stream. Whenever something clicks with your audience, actually write it down if you can't remember it, or if it's something that keeps slipping your mind. You're going to want to have areas that you can focus on for the future. And with that, let's take some questions in particular here on content. There's a lot of different directions that we can go with it. Would love to get some questions here, whether that's about the MVP, different fundamental streaming skills, or in general here. Awesome. Got some coming in here. Oh man, you guys are awesome. Let's see. What kind of conversational skills do you have with yourself when you're building up some of those conversations? Yeah, I guess some of the conversations that I always have with myself is just about, even if it's just about the game. I think a big way to think about this too is like, if you are going through and playing a game, it can be pretty much any game, bringing out some of the logic and the thinking that you're doing in your head and just verbally saying it. It can be a really, really hard thing to do, to play and talk at the same time, even if it's about something different, right? That can be an aspect of it too that it's good to practice about. For me, a lot of that was even just my schoolwork. Even some of the very early content that I did was I would just literally record myself reading my notes for my class. So like in terms of me studying for a test or something, I would just read all my notes out loud. I'm talking to myself, I'm recording it, and then I would listen back to it. I even tried throwing it on gameplay for a series, which Drastically failed, I can tell you. Nobody wants to see zombies with economics. At least not then. Maybe it would work now. But having that experience and just talking is something that, like, I'm in general quite reserved. I don't really talk a lot in general outside of my content, I guess, especially not back in the day. And that was always a really big thing in general here. Quite a few of these questions, we're going to mark some of them, and we will have them at the end as well. Great question in general on content there. But let's hop into community, the next pillar. We have two big topics for you on community today. Picking from one of these three kind of key creator paths that I'm going to talk about, and then finding your niche. Of course, there's a lot that goes into community even outside of that as well, but these are some really good places to start with it. I'd like to introduce you to kind of the three key paths that most streamers follow when they're designing their identity, even if it's not something you necessarily do on purpose as you go through it. As I go through them, think about similarities or ways that it relates to you or how they might apply better. The all-star. It's kind of your high-level player with a focus on mechanical finesse, 200 IQ plays, just brilliantness. For me, that's Shroud. Like, looking at him coming out of Counter-Strike, being a pro, winning, and then coming into PUBG, just pulling off some of the most incredible clips that I had ever seen, nonstop, casually, all day, even on his stream, 24/7. It's crazy. I'm sure you can think of thousands of great players, in depending on different categories and everything, but definitely one of my favorites. The informer, teacher of games, life skills, or even other fields where they can be a subject matter expert. It doesn't even necessarily have to be around a game. Example of that is like being with Babish. If you guys have seen his YouTube channel and his cooking and culinary arts, him teaching recipes and just the way to cook and prepare things at such an exceptional level, it's incredible. As well as then the entertainer, focusing on entertaining the audience, even if it's really at the expense of winning the game. A great example of this that I love is Tyler One. If you guys have seen him in League of Legends, even outside of League of Legends, his IRL content, the rage, the reactions, everything that he does with it's pure entertainment with it. Think about your style though. Which one of these three do you think suits you the best? Maybe there's a combination of multiple things with it. Maybe you see even some of your favorite creators and you can kind of pinpoint some of these things more so. You don't necessarily even have to be married to this choice. You can always try something new later down the road. Maybe there's shifts that happen, but it is really good to pick one of these three, especially at the beginning, so you have something to focus on. You have a starting place for your content in general. This ties really well over to your niche. When it comes to finding your niche, for those of you that maybe aren't even quite sure what a niche is, here's an example. Some of you might know me as the commanding officer, copy 1-2. I join random matchmaking squads. I shout out military orders to my teammates. I'm using the lingo, the proper terminology or whatever that might be in some of these games. And that was something that I was known for. It's something that it's unique. That is my specific niche, at least one of them. Finding what separates you from the crowd is a giant part of content creation. If you are one of, say, 100 Facebook or Twitch creators who are streaming a certain game, what incentive does the audience have to watch you over the next person? This is why finding your specific niche is so important. It's what separates you from the rest of the creators sharing the space, even if it's not every single second of all your content. It's all about finding a corner that you can really make your own. Now I'm going to tell you a bit how to do that. One of the ways is to start by identifying gaps. What content do you wish existed? Do you not see existing? And can you make it happen? For example, say you're an informer. Is there a game or maybe a way you play a game that maybe people aren't getting specifically into? You can't find help on? You can't get more details about? I remember when Battlefield 1 came out, I made some of the typical gameplays and videos around it. But what I did differently was I really focused heavily on the Calibri. I put most of my work into this, and it was one of the first videos that I uploaded on. It was this little tiny joke meme pistol. It was like it was like a pea-sized gun. It was a complete joke in the game. Rather than all the other stuff that everybody wanted to know about the game, this was the thing that I managed to really stand out and make a funny, interesting piece on, and that helped explode my content going into that game. Another is to change the format of the content that you already like. Imitation may be the best form of flattery, but it's not necessarily going to set you apart. If somebody is doing the content that you want to do, is there a way that maybe you can change the format around it, the structure, to make that content even stand out or be more different? One super new hot trend right now, of course, has been short form content. I think we're still in extremely early stages of all of that. Between TikTok, YouTube Shorts now, IG Reels, you can adopt some of that other content to these short form platforms. The third way, then, of course, is the execution of it. Can you execute better than others and how they're doing it? Maybe that's higher quality videos. Maybe it's even posting more frequently, more consistently. Just because somebody got there first doesn't necessarily mean that there's no room for more or for better content in the space. I've been creating content for 10 years. I'm not the only creator in the space, right? Let's think about how many people have come up just in the last year alone that are killing it. Let's take one more question from chat here, specifically on community. If you guys got any questions on that. You know what I'm saying here, though? There's a lot that can even branch out from community with all of this. But let's see a couple of the things that we got here. This is a good one, even talking about niche as well. Do you think it's best to shy away? Kind of like, do you think it's best to stay away from playing some of the top games because they're oversaturated in the streaming world? I think there's definitely ways that you can get into some of the biggest games. That was where I started. Call of Duty was like one of the biggest games, and then I decided to try and get into that. And the way that you really branch out with that, and even in a similar way, right, is what I did with my And We Are Live series. I went in and created a way of shoutcasting or becoming an esports commentator, or maybe you're not familiar with that, like an NFL announcer for, like, you know, the Super Bowl, but I'm treating this random public lobby as the Super Bowl and casting it for all these other people that are in the game, and they're just sitting on their couch like, what are you yelling about? I've got literally like 300 episodes of that. I don't even really do it anymore now, but that was a huge way that I was able to differentiate in such a competitive space for it. If that's not necessarily even the case, then yeah, it is very good to find smaller games, find smaller niches and communities, because even if that's a small niche, I did this even for Battlefield Hardline. This was a game that overall was really not well received, but I ended up really sticking it out. I was doing pretty much daily videos or 4 to 5 a week on it, and I managed to build a community for the people that actually did like the game, which was like 5% of the entire people who got the game, because everybody really didn't seem to like it. Some other awesome questions here. Again, we'll note some of these. We'll throw them out here at the end, as well as if you guys have any other questions with it. Going on to the fourth pillar, though, let's talk about marketing. This is a really massive topic, and we could probably dedicate a whole entire training session to this too, a whole hour after hour for it. But we're going to touch on 2 of the key pieces here today with it: establishing your brand, and then how to diversify your platforms. These are so important to do, especially right off the bat, that's why I included them for today's training. First off, I want to talk about establishing and securing your brand. Now that you're maybe at a starting place for your content, it's important to know how to present it to potential viewers. This means establishing and securing your brand, and that's not just stuff that you post on social media, right? First off, make sure that you have some type of unique or easy to spell name. Nobody really wants to spell StoneMaster dude 420 with like the W, no O at the beginning, and then no vowels the first 2 words, but then the last ones. You know, you can, but if they can't find you, if they can't easily share it with somebody or talk about it, that's one of the things. Even my name is really long in general, but you can check for some of your potential names that you could use with a tool like namecheck.com to see if you've got availability on a whole bunch of different platforms, and to kind of help you decide on what name you have and to make it as easy and clear as possible. Once you've locked in a name, make sure that you reserve it across all those different platforms. Even if you don't necessarily intend on using them right away, there's nothing more annoying than having to slightly change a name on Instagram or on Twitter or whatever. Sometimes it's inevitable, but especially if it was available to do it at the beginning and you didn't do it just because you weren't planning on doing the platform later. That was one of the things. Even back in 2011, I managed to capture my Facebook page, even though I didn't start using it until a couple years later, and then really using it even years later after that. Same thing even with the domain name. Fortunately, my dad told me you should get a domain name right off the bat, and so I did have one saved. But registering a .com or .gg even is relatively low cost, especially on something like GoDaddy or whatever it might be. And it'll be better than having to try and buy it back from somebody later who jumped on it because they saw that the path that you were on. It can be way easier to deal with it now than it will be later. That's the way it goes for a lot of this stuff if you can just take a little early action on it. Finally, diversifying your platforms. Most people think of being a streamer or a creator, they just think of Facebook or Twitch or YouTube, right? I had to throw Facebook in there, okay? I do a lot of stuff there, okay? But it's good to question and figure out what's really going to be the best for you. Look at other creators on those platforms and see how competitive your content would really be in those spaces. Ultimately, it's not a life or death choice. Your platform that you use, it probably will be the time you spend the most on, the one that you do decide to main, but you're not necessarily tied to it for life. I've streamed on Twitch for 2 years. I streamed on YouTube. I streamed on all of them at the same time. It can move around as well. But beyond just your core platforms, most successful creators today are thinking of a way more than just their main platform. One of the key growth strategies in building a community is to do it on multiple platforms and then having them funnel into your main channel. Additionally, having a diversified audience on different platforms is a massive win by itself. It's crucial not only at the beginning, but throughout everything. And it gives you more control, especially in the early stages of growth too. If you look at platforms like Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, they're all great platforms to test out on. They each offer different ways of reaching different types of audiences and different types of content. Once you build a community, build relationships over time with those audiences, it's much easier to invite them, to tell them about your other streams, your other platforms, your other avenues of creating content. These also have a massive benefit of having an algorithm, as well as just different ways of reaching people through sharing, tagging, that platforms like Twitch, for example, just do not have. And that's why you're seeing it be such a staple for content creators today. Reddit and Discord are also fantastic platforms. They can help you manage and interact your community, as well as even get involved with other communities to be a part of, giving them a sense of involvement with you and your content, or you with other communities as well. That's a lot on marketing in general. You can see how we can, just with those two things, branch into tons and tons of different areas and build up off of everything from there. But those are some of the key points on it. Let's take another question from the chat here on marketing. Obviously, you guys can see how much more there is here, but let's see what else we have here. This is pretty good. It's talking about running ads in particular, which, I mean, that comes great for marketing in general, right? Sometimes there's ads. Maybe you guys even saw an ad for this pop up. For small streamers, it can be something that's effective. Even early on in my career, I had tried a couple things with it. The key with it, though, is to have something that you already have built. So if you've already spent time, you've got something built, you know what you're creating, you've got all of these things kind of figured out, and you have something to promote, or even if it's a specific event or something really cool like this, right? Like, this is a cool, big event. This is something that we want to promote. We want more people to see. That's where it can make sense. You can still put that together as a small streamer. You can build something that you want to send people to, or have even a video or a comic or whatever that you want to send people to. That can be a very effective way to do it. If you're just going to spend money to have people come watch you stream, and then it's just like I don't know, maybe you don't have that together yet, which can be often for smaller streamers. Or even if you're just new in general, maybe it's your first week or your second week or third week or whatever of doing this, then it doesn't really make sense. And I think there's probably other ways you can invest in your content, invest in your time, and invest in ways in you building that up before you promote it. Versus, let's say you had, for example, even looking at my YOLO series, I had 15 or 20 episodes of that show up, which had, a couple thousand views on them and everything. Like, it was going relatively well, but it didn't really blow up until I already had all of those episodes up. And then one of my older episodes got onto Reddit, and that was kind of a way of advertising for it that got out to a whole bunch of people. They came on, saw that one, and then they saw all the other content there if they wanted to. Some people just saw that and they moved on and never saw it ever again. But there were so many people that did see all of the full playlist and all the stuff that I had, that was really awesome that happened at that time. And it's also something that I promoted as future episodes came out, or it came into a new game or something. I would do some promotions around. to help get some more stuff on, because I could send it to all the other stuff as well, and it can really compound more, which can be hard, especially at the beginning of some of these things. Great question, though. And I am seeing quite a few more messages in chat here, and we will get to some more of those as we get to the end again. So let's move on with that to the final pillar here, which is business. So we've kind of covered a whole bunch of different things, from content, brand, community, approaching your stream. But at the end of the day, how do you make money at some of this? And then with that, how do you know when you can go full time after that, right? It's a big question. So first of all, how do most streamers make their money? It mostly comes down to either audience financial support or advertising. Just like how millions of people pay a Netflix subscription, viewers donate money to their favorite streamers so that they can keep watching the content that they love, supporting that person. Even if it's only $1 a month, when you multiply that by thousands of viewers, you can easily see how popular content creators are able to sustain their businesses so well. Advertising, on the other hand, works like it does with other forms of media. Streamers draw an audience. Advertisers want their product or service in front of that audience. The advertiser either works with the platform or directly even with a streamer, which would be something more like a sponsorship. When working with a platform such as YouTube or Facebook, an advertiser actually bids on the auction space for the ad, and then the platform matches the advertiser with the content creator's audience, and then there's a split for that auction money between the creator and the platform. When an advertiser chooses to directly sponsor a creator, though, it kind of cuts out the platform in general, but it means that that brand or is particularly interested in that creator's community. They're going right to the community, working with the creator. The best way to handle this for creators is to work with companies who make products or services or whatever that works with your audience and that they would actually find valuable. It's important for this because you're working directly with them. You also want to maintain your integrity in terms of not losing your own brand equity and not talking about something that you actually believe in. What's important is to recognize that there is a lot of freedom and flexibility when it comes to making content online. I'm sure you probably even follow some content creators that maybe even support on a Patreon, or there's a lot of different merchandise. There's a lot of different ways that you can do that. It's a matter of finding what is the right combination and methods for you and for your content. A lot of that comes once you have an audience, right? So then what does that look like when you even do have an audience and you're thinking about making the transition to full time? You should really entertain this idea of going full time if you've reached a point where there's not enough hours in the day to manage both your day job and your stream has more opportunities for it than you can really even handle with everything that's going on. By that point, you should also be at a point where, you've done this for a while. Maybe you can even safely live off your content income, or you have a solid plan around that. Once you've been streaming part-time for a bit, you get a sense of an idea of how much time it requires, how fast you can grow. And at this point, you can start to calculate your expenses, your revenue, look at your savings, and set a budget so that you can plan for that switch full time. Maybe it's even around a big launch or something new or big that you can really capitalize on. And on top of that, and it could be something that could go even bigger. A good goal is to have between about 6 to 12 months of expenses in the bank that requires you to have some real honesty about your own life, not only personally for your food and your rent and medical expenses or whatever that might be, but also the business side for equipment, contractors, even other investments that you might want to do. Before you can make the switch to full-time, it might be helpful as well to even reach out to a financial planner. There is tons of great advisors that have been entering the content creation space that actually understand what all of this is. There's still quite a few that even don't. So it is helpful to have the right people inside Pipeline. We have several financial advisors that we strongly recommend for our members as well, but that can be something really strong to consider. Finally, being prepared to be your own boss. If you're even already streaming part-time, you might have realized this. Anybody in the chat kind of figuring this out some of the hard ways? It can be hard to figure out, okay, and maybe even get yourself to do some of the work sometimes that you need to, or figuring out when you don't work. Just like it's up to you in terms of how much you want to invest into it. How much do you want to put effort towards the next step in your journey? It certainly is challenging, but it can also be incredibly rewarding as you go down that journey and to see it actually pay off with it as well. With that, I do want to take One more question on the final pillar of business here. Lot to unpack within it in general, and we're going to have more time at the end for some more of these questions, but we already have a bunch of these marked in the chat here. Some of them on to different topics as well, and we had some earlier as well here, which is awesome. Let's see here if we can find one on particular for this. Cool. Oh, how about this? How did I know? Basically, how did I know when I went full time? And then how did it feel when I did it? It took me about, I think it was about 5 or 6 years before I decided to make the leap full time. I had graduated college. I was 2 years into working in this position. It was 50 hours a week, every single night, every single weekend dedicated to my content creation outside of a Saturday evening. And so ultimately it became something that my girlfriend and wife was really struggling with, as well as me in general, just how tired I was, getting up at early hours, staying up late for all of this constantly. And it got to a point where I couldn't keep on managing both, and I had more opportunities. Battlefield 1 was going to be fully launching as well. And so I saw this as like I could go gangbusters with this if I really spent all my time, all my day, in addition to, even at nights and whatever, pumping this out. I could take this to a whole nother level. And that was my hope. I had a couple series already established. I had a couple formats. I could build off of those. I could make them better, make it. And so that for me was a decision that I decided to go for, even though the hard thing for me was that I was doing so good at my full-time job. And there's different stories for so many different people and how this transition has happened, but I was still doing relatively well and I wanted to make the leap for it. And I even I was emotional when I went into the office and I told my boss that I was quitting, and I basically left it on the best terms I possibly could, because I was like, look, if this doesn't work out, I'd love to come back at some point. I'm doing great. And they really liked me. So fortunate that door kind of was left open, at least to a degree. But it was definitely a big decision. And it always is, from creators that I've spoken to. Great question, though. And again, I'm seeing some more. We'll get to some more here. But I want to do kind of a quick recap of these 5 pillars before we get on to some more tips as well here. That was a ton of information coming at you. We really only scratched the surface, though. There's a ton more content in each of these 5 pillars in the curriculum. We covered maybe 5% of the content, but hopefully it left you with a good sense of where to start and where to focus next with your time. To quickly recap here, mindset is all about doing what you need in order to be your best on a daily basis, being prepared, finding a work-life balance, and finding enjoyment in your work is all keys, especially when it comes to the long-term success of this, doing it for years. Your content is ultimately the thing, though, that your company makes. It's the way that your customers or your audience interacts with you, and they're paying for it at the end of the day, whether it's with their time or even cash supporting. That doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be perfect day one, though, when you're creating it and you're starting it. I know mine sure as hell wasn't. It's more important to get something out there regularly, though, and to keep improving on it than to never release something until it's really the absolute best. And I know I speak with so many creators that are stuck at that point right there. Your community then will find you based on your niche and what you create around. If you want to be more family-friendly, Animal Crossing streamer, you're going to have a very different audience, likely, than somebody who's swearing like a sailor and playing Doom Eternal, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that either of them are bad. It just means that your community is going to reflect the choices that you make on your content. And that gives you a good picture of what that looks like. Marketing is the key to your long-term growth, because it's how you tell people about your content and who you are. Building your brand, maximizing your reach. It is critically important to making sure that you make the most of any chance that you have when you get in front of a potential subscriber, no matter whether that's on Twitch, Twitter, Reddit, TikTok, any point where you are publicly out there. And that's true even if it's another brand you might work with or even another creator you might work with. Finally, how do you put it all together? And then even, as a business, and then how do you make that jump even to full time? It is a complicated decision, not one that you should necessarily even take lightly. It's going to require a lot of work and discipline to find success as a full-time streamer, but there are tons of steps that you can take to help set yourself up to be at a greater peace of mind and to have a higher likelihood of success as you do decide to make that leap. So then you're probably wondering, okay, that's a lot of information. But I understand. Hopefully this makes a lot of sense to you. But maybe you want some more actions to actually put it into action. Maybe you already have some ideas of your own, stuff that you want to do even right after this. Hell yeah, get after it. I totally understand, though, that maybe some of this doesn't apply to you. Maybe some of it does. And we're going to go through some more tips right here, right now. Maybe you even are thinking, though, I already know a lot of this stuff. I run into that as well. Well, then challenge yourself and ask, why aren't you doing the steps? See what you can take away here today to actually start to make more progress in the stuff that you want to do. In addition to the stuff that I covered today in the 5 pillars, I've also put together 3 lists that offer 5 tips for streamers at different stages of streaming journey that hopefully you see something from here today that helps level you up and keep on going. If you are brand new to streaming, complete 3 test streams with no tech issues. This means stable bitrate, no frame drop. Basically, what would you want to see if you popped in on your favorite streamer's stream to watch? Before you tell anybody to come watch your stream or friends or reach out to anybody, this has to be locked in. Even if it's testing it on a separate account, maybe you've even made an upgrade or a switch or something, testing it on a separate account to ensure that you are completely set. The second thing is optimizing your audio. This can be such an annoying point for people that they just don't even realize. Something as simple as set a noise gate and set some compression. That can even be done within OBS. Then test yelling into your microphone. Run the full gambit of what a stream might look like. You're not recording, or maybe you're recording, you're not streaming. Just record it for yourself to see what that looks like. Because if you have an epic moment and a great moment, and I can't tell you how many moments I have lost, not only because of tech, but not recording or whatever it might be, you do not want to lose those moments. You do not want to lose those moments. So make sure this is set before you get going with it. The third thing is having all your socials linkable and then go and test them. If you need to, after this, go and test every single link on all your platforms today. Even if you could set a link tree or some type of social link up that sends you to all the different places and make sure that all of them are working, if that's even easier for you to manage. I've been to so many pages where they only have one social link, but they're actually using their other ones as well. Or I recently even went to a Pipeline members page on their Twitter. I was trying to pull up their YouTube, and I tried to even copy and paste her URL directly into the browser, and it didn't work. And then I tried manually searching it. It wasn't coming up. So because I didn't know the exact page of the name of the page. So I just gave up and moved on to the next thing. Be ready as well. The final point here. Be ready to talk all stream long. If somebody comes to your content, they are not going to wait. You need to be the one already in the content. Have fun and want to be there so that others want to be there too. Things that you can do to prepare for that is even have a video ready that you can react to, talk about, play with somebody that you can keep a conversation going with. And then if you don't have somebody, even have that existing list of topics ready to go that you can discuss and just keep on throwing out, keep on vibing with it. One more with this. Make a sticky note to be yourself. Leave it on your screen in the corner, just put it down in the corner. Or if you're real crazy, you could put it right in the middle of your screen, although, that might hurt your gameplay. I'm just saying. It can be nerve-wracking when you start a live stream. Feeling confident with what you are doing, though, will go such a long way. Don't forget that I used to have 0 viewers. I was nervous. I felt awkward. Hell, I felt nervous and awkward even starting this today. I was nervous. And even if I'm going live, when I was going live to 0 people, when I was going live to 10, to 50, to 100, and now to 10,000 people, it's like, holy man, there's nerves in general. But I'm focused on being myself. And the most important thing with it is focused on creating the content for the people that are watching. Hopefully, if you're new to streaming, this should be just like, overload. All right, let's do it. Hype. I'm hoping it is. I'm hoping all of this just makes complete sense. And if you're currently maybe part-time, maybe you're already streaming quite a bit, you're trying to figure out other ways to grow, figure out other ways to do things. There can be a lot of different areas, and it depends on you with this. So I want to say, just as point 1 here, lay out what are the 5 best reinvestment options that you can take. Even just spitball, put 15 down, isolate it to 5, and then choose one to focus on. Maybe it's over the next week, the next month, whatever it is, but have one area that's your reinvestment that you think you can get the most out of that investment for it. The second point is to review the last 3 months of your analytics. See what you did best. See what maybe you thought was going to do good, but you look at it and it's like, that had a lot of views on it. That had a lot of comments on it. That had a lot of interaction on it. Isolate what made that content stand out. See where you can replicate that in new ways. Maybe you don't even want to go down that same path, but maybe there's a new way you can take it. Maybe there's a different way that you can make it interesting or exciting, or find one of the elements within that. An example for this for me was seeing my YOLO content really starting to decline in one game. I'm uploading weekly shows of this, the viewership's going down, people are getting tired of whatever it is. How do I keep on implementing that? How do I do something different with it? Well, that's taking it to different games. Sometimes, like games with a division, I tried it on that and it blew up to, I'm talking like completely new levels. And I couldn't even believe it because I never even played the division or a game like that before, from playing Call of Duty and Battlefield, which is kind of similar, but it was really different. It was really new. And it took it to entirely new levels. Whereas like other times I tried it like on Apex Legends, or even stuff that I've tried to transfer over to Overwatch, and it just flops super hard and it does not work. And I try it and I try it and I try it and it just didn't work. The third point here is to write out for you how you want your audience to support you. Then find ways to make that fun and interesting to educate them on the exact information. Not necessarily reading all of that stuff out loud to them, but how do you make it interesting and fun for them? Is that sharing your content, coming to raids with you to, hype somebody else up and get your name out there, or whatever it is, showing up at the beginning of your stream right off the rip so that the algorithm helps to push it out to more people. So if you send that notification out, you want people to be there right at the beginning, tweeting you or even other people on your behalf to come to your content, or just natural, organic ways of engaging on your behalf with other people as well. The fourth point, set a time for your personal life. At some cadence each month, do something to connect and remind loved ones of not only what you're doing, but doing something for them. Being proactive with it, communicating even what you are doing. But if you're the one who's proactive on that front, it's so much better than doing absolutely nothing. And it can go a very long way. And the more you can do and to keep that, maybe it's not much, right? But you don't want it to be nothing. And finally, engage on your platforms. Even just set it 10 times a day. Finding a hashtag, a game community, even a creator, and then every day contribute. Be part of that community. That is what you are doing. Even in your own community, right? That you, of course, want to show up and be there for and engaging with as well. It may not be seen, it may not get approved or even stand out, but that's how you can at least even build up your skills, see what is working, and continue to build that up. Finally, if you're full-time, but maybe you're stagnating, maybe you're trying to figure out, I've got all this time, but what the heck do I do? Look for 3 new areas that you can explore. This could be even totally different. It could be similar. It could be a different platform. What is even interesting to you in that front? There's a lot of directions. Isolate it to 3. Pull the trigger on 1. Understand that everybody's going to stagnate. Everybody declines. Like I was talking about earlier, I've been down that road tons of times over this last decade, especially when a game's been out for a while. Often it's new games, new moments. That's where the biggest growth, maybe it's a specific event, that's what can really boost a channel. Either going to a new game or even doing something new or big in an existing game, especially when others leave that and as competition dwindles. If they go to the other new game and you stay on the other game and build that community up even tighter, even deeper, and continue to go with it. The second point is breaking down your day by hours. See where you are actually spending your time. This was so big for me to really assess where I was at, especially when I went full time with everything right off the bat. I had so much more time than everything I had before. It was amazing. And that ties right into my third point, which is to reallocate your time by 1 to 3 hours. Start small. Maybe your calendar is really looking whack. You got to do some more, surgery on that calendar. Maybe it's more than that hours. But look where you're spending your time that may be ineffective and see where can you start to leverage up somewhere else. For me, I started to end my streams after 2 hours when I went full time. I was going for 3-4 hours. Ultimately, my streams started to nosedive at the end of it. And so I decided, well, I'm going to take that time, work on other things, working on videos, working on joke writing, working on other forms of content, engaging with the community, engaging with other communities, figuring out what content to even create on. There's so much that you can do outside of that. That tremendously helped me outside of what I was doing. Ending your streams, maybe it's an hour earlier, spending a solid hour dedicated to a new platform, even a series on a current platform. series on a current game, creating something that's even different, unique, different from your stream, that then everybody on your stream wants to go watch this other piece. The fourth point is reinvesting in a system. Look at what part of your day you don't necessarily even need to be involved in, and find a way to reduce your time at it so that you can focus on where you do have a bigger impact. Probably that bigger impact is going to be on your live stream, right? It's hard to replace you on your actual content unless, you've got something set up for that, which can be great too. It can be really hard to ask for help in the first place. And on top of that, it can be really hard to trust somebody as well. But that's where if you do the due diligence, you take the steps to do that, it can allow you to really leverage up with everything else that you're doing. Identifying those areas even in the first place can be a hard part with it. But if you start building for it, or even just create like a Google form application, set all the parameters up of what you're looking for, maybe even just send it out to certain people rather than blasting it out to everybody, can be a really good place to start with it. And that's what I did. Finally, reach out to someone new. Target someone that you admire, you enjoy their content from, or maybe you have a genuine connection with. Maybe somebody around your content size or how long you've been creating or whatever that might be. Take a step to showcase your portfolio, the content you're creating, a way to bring them in on it. Once a week, maybe reach out to somebody. Put yourself into those new opportunities is my point. Whatever the cadence is, whatever that is, set it to yourself to go out and do it. Makes sense? A lot of tips there. I think there's a lot to take away from it, right? Chat, you guys like some of that? Oh, you see at least one you can pull out from that? Now I want to reintroduce Pipeline a little bit too. Heck yeah. All right. Hopefully you learned something in the 5 pillars, those lists that you can execute on today. But if you're ready to do even more to build your career as a streamer, you really need to check out Pipeline. The 5 pillars we've gone through today drive the core of our content and inspire our playbook, which is our step-by-step guide to streaming that covers the topics that every creator needs to know, many of which we talked about today. This is a proven framework. It's informed not only by the success of Snoop, as well as, of course, myself, but also other top creators we've worked with and who have invested in Pipeline. It's something that we continue to update regularly to make sure that our members have the most up-to-date information with. Absolutely. Oh, you guys are great, chat. You guys are great. In addition to the playbook, our web platform contains a ton of other features and content that I quickly want to touch on. We know how important it is for you to hit your milestones. We want to help be there with your goals, to help center you on your experience, and not only to help you with specialized content with your goals if you're struggling, but also to be there to celebrate your goals and your accomplishments with them. Of course, masterclasses as well. We have a ton of masterclasses taught by experts in their fields. Some of the current classes that might sound interesting to you: setting up your Discord, how to use social media like top creators, how to attack YouTube specifically as a streamer, how to find sponsors and to pitch yourself. These are already up, and we have new ones coming every single month from experts. You also get live mentorship sessions with myself, as well as other creators and even other experts. These help drive accountability. We even open up the floor to answer Q&A, and it's all real time. These sessions can help you get unstuck if you're facing a particular challenge. You also have access, of course, to our team and the community 24/7. I haven't even touched on our Discord community. It's the heart of Pipeline. This is so much value here that we've been building exactly for the reason that for what we wish we had when I was starting out years ago, when I could have only dreamed of having, trying to figure all of this stuff out in the first place, right? On top of that, partnerships, especially if you're thinking about making an upgrade anyways, we have some incredible partnerships. When you're looking to upgrade a stream, we have exclusive discounts for you on hardware from Corsair and Elgato. You can save hundreds on products you need just right there. When you're sitting up for hours, sitting at your chair, you want to take care of yourself. Get a chair from Autonomous that can have you set. You need a sick overlay package for your stream. You want to elevate the overall look of your content. Get one included with your membership through our partners over at VBI. If you plan on making any upgrades up anyways, definitely recommend checking this out. As I hinted at as well, we have 2 levels of support, monthly and annual. Joining Pipeline as a monthly member gets you instant access to our entire playbook, all of the 5 core pillars, instant access to our current masterclasses, as well as new masterclasses coming every month, an incredible community of streamers, support from myself, Snoopy, and the entire Pipeline team that continues to grow, 2 group mentorship sessions with myself each month, partner discounts from 10 to 40% on premium gaming and streaming gear, custom Pipeline overlay that you can even start to use day one if you want to just get going with it. We also offer an annual member bonus, which includes $40 off a premium membership to Pretzel Rock, which is stream safe music that you can actually use without having to worry. You also get an additional monthly group mentorship session with myself, pure Q&A about anything streaming, about anything content. It also saves you 18% off the normal price, which basically ends up saving you 2 free months on it. I know that some people may not want to pay for an annual subscription up front, but we tried to make it as easy as possible for you. And when you think about investing in hardware to stream with, like a PC, cameras, light, et cetera, whatever it might be, making an investment in you should also be something that you prioritize. And we're so confident with it that we offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if it's not for you, that's okay too. And on top of that, we have a fast action bonus for you guys. If you still aren't really sure about it, I'm going to give you guys a special discount for coming to this training today. The fact that you guys are even here, wanting to stay for the Q&A, the other announcement that we have, it tells me a lot about it, and it tells me that you're serious. And so with that, if you join in the next 30 minutes, we have an additional 15% discount for you, bringing it up to a total of 30% discount, a full year membership, and everything offered included for $288. That's huge. It's basically getting 3 months included with it if you sign up for an annual right now. But we're also offering the discount for monthly too. You should be able to see the offer pop up on your screen now. If you guys do want to check it out, click the link to sign up. The secret code is 5 pillars in case you don't see it applied to your checkout right away, okay? Now, for the big surprise that we had, I'd like to introduce you guys to a new tool that we literally just launched. It is called VertiClip. It allows you to turn your stream clips into a vertical short format video for TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Reels, or whatever, literally in seconds. If you sign up today, you'll get instant access to VertiClip. It's essentially automated your entire short form video workflow. Between your replay buffer and VertiClip, you can crank out short form content. You don't even need to download any special software. You don't need to have any special hardware because it's all done by us. You upload a link. So if you already have it uploaded somewhere, or you can upload it yourself, or you can just send us a link if you already have it uploaded somewhere. We do all the heavy lifting in terms of the encoding, the transferring, the switching it, and it's all set. If you're still not sure, let me share some of the actual stories of Pipeline members. I can't tell you the number of people that I've spoken with over now the years of doing this, which is awesome. And I know personally, speaking with other creators and industry folk, that it's helped to open my eyes over the years to actually learn and to spend some time learning from others. It's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day with everything, especially in streaming where it can literally be nonstop, fully consuming, and you're doing everything all at once. But let me tell you, when I see messages like this, the impact that myself and the other people at this team have had, it warms my heart. I love to inspire people, and we put so much into all of this in the first place. It's just exciting to see. Waking up to see messages like this, or even just somebody sending me a message from months back of an implementation or something that they've changed with their content. Here you go. I just want to say how thankful I am for this community. In one day, I went from console to full PC gaming setup with zero knowledge of where to even go from there. I could literally not have done it without this group. The community is beyond amazing and supportive. More testimonials even. I don't know if I would be as far already without all the help and the support that we got here. I've always wanted a community where I felt appreciated on a level with people who knew my struggle in getting started. It's so awesome to hear. This is just the tip of the iceberg, though. We have literally hundreds of testimonials. You can look through some of those if you would even like to. But let's look at a case study as well. Telly. In this case, if you're wondering if it really even works, let me tell you this story. Television, college student, trying to make it big as a streamer, first over on Twitch, then over on Facebook. Long story short, she felt stuck and was really looking for resources to help her keep on growing. So she joined Pipeline back in October of 2019. Since then, she's gained over 35,000 new followers. She's built her CCV up, or her concurrent viewers, into literally hundreds. She also became a Facebook partner, which is incredibly awesome. And she's killing it every day. She is a fantastic creator. Another one, How about Tactical Grandma, a musician and, of course, an actual grandma who has been literally gaming since the Atari days. She started streaming back in fall of 2019, but couldn't really find her way, and she decided she needed some help, so she joined Pipeline back in November. Since then, she's gained over 75,000 new followers, has also become a Facebook partner. Some say even better at Warzone than me, although I would challenge that. And that's not just me saying that she's better than everybody at streaming, okay? It's USA Today. She's been reported on articles. It's super cool to see. Anyways, they covered her rise a couple months ago, USA, and these are just a few examples of folks that we've helped change their lives, and I want to help you accomplish the same thing. As a thank you guys for attending today as well. I talked about this a little bit at the beginning. As a special thank you for joining in today, you're also going to receive a free stream revenue calculator that I mentioned in my emails. You should see it available to download on screen now. This tool should give you a better idea of kind of what range of income streams kind of exist at different levels of viewership. Do keep in mind that when you're using this, these are really just estimates. How much you make off sponsors, donations, etc. All of that can widely vary. I've seen channels with 10,000 followers making more than even channels with 100,000, right? But the calculator is to give you kind of an idea of what you can make at different levels and what that can look like. Finally, as even more for you guys, we've got 1 month free for Epidemic Sounds. This is a really cool DMCA free music, so you can play music on your stream without having to necessarily worry about it getting taken down or flagged or whatever. Just click the link on screen for that as well. You can redeem it. This is what I use for my music, in addition to a couple other tools and resources that just helps add to the overall vibe of the content. And with that, thank you guys so much for staying all the way till the end here. We're going to open it up to Q&A. We already had a couple questions earlier as well, which is awesome. We'll try and grab a couple of those. But if you got any other questions, whether it's about Pipeline, whether it's about some of the material or something else, hopefully even on some of that would be awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining in, though. And let's see if we can grab some of these questions here. All right. Let's see what we got. Is Pipeline a website? Also, yeah, so Pipeline is a dedicated website. We have an entire information set on there, our playbook, as well as tools, so many different tools. That's where we also have Verticlip up. We have our mentorship sessions. And then we also do have the Discord server as well, so you can join in on the Discord if you'd like to. We have an incredible community there, and it's an extension of everything with chill and chats and everything that we do. Thanks for everybody who's tuning in for yes, absolutely. Let's see what else we got here. What are some recommendations on mindset of being a / gaining support from your spouse just starting up as well? This is often a challenge. I can tell you, especially my wife doesn't even play games. She doesn't even look at some of these things. And if you do have that support, be even more grateful for as much as you can for them on it. But a lot of that is really, from what I've talked with other members and what I've talked with many other people, is having some time to sit down and explain what it is that you're trying to do. Explain what the content that you want to create, the path that you want to go down, and actually having some type of plan and game plan with it can go an absolutely massive way with it. Some of that is early preparation that you need to do even before it. And then, of course, actually going after it as well. Killing it, helping out. Absolutely, Tyler. Thanks for joining in. Let's see what else we got here. To go full-time pursuing a career as a streamer. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it too is a similar vein, but Nelson is like, it's taking that time to work on it after your working it on a weekend, on a night or whatever, especially if you're full-time at something else, and actually having a calendar, having a schedule set up. Somebody else asking about smoking, I think asking about, managing a whole bunch of different things. That is a plan with it. And that's where even what I was talking about with having a schedule, having some of that time set up so that okay, I'm going to have Monday, Wednesday, Friday night after the kids are asleep. That's when I'm going to work on it or whatever it might be. And then being present and being aware and making plans or doing something. That's what I'm talking about when I say some of these tips of like having something where you are also working for you're not neglecting whatever your family life and your other responsibilities might be. Connor, welcome, man. Just signed up. Heck yeah. Uh, Richard, how long did it take you to break even? I mean, for me, when I was first starting out, I was making nothing for a very long time with it. There was not too many even resources available back at that time. And it was also much weirder to even think about making money from it. A lot of it was through ad revenue. I think it was about after a year or so, I was making like $30 or whatever a month from it. And I was like, all right, this is paying for the hobby itself, or this is paying for itself basically in terms of like, I can get me some games, I can get some DLCs, I can maybe get this new microphone or whatever it might be if I had something good with it. And then it kept on progressing through there as I learned more, as I kept on implementing more and continued to build the audience through it. But that's where, it took me years as I went through it. Do you recommend streaming to multiple different platforms at one time? This is always a big question, and we have a lot of content talking about this in general because for some people it does work. I had a lot of time, Daniel, where I actually spent multi-streaming out to multiple different platforms after I had canceled the Twitch contract. I had a lot of interest, and I ended up building a Patreon and some other areas with it. It depends where you're at with your content and what your flow is for it. And what some of the interest is. There is a benefit, right, of you casting. I'll give you kind of some high level things to look at with it is like you are casting a bigger net out to more people by streaming on multiple platforms. But then it can also be harder to build that community around one central one, especially if it's just a couple people on different ones and they don't exactly even know what's going on and where you're building it up. And that's why it's so important to have some type of at least one central platform, especially when you're starting out and you can start building on some of that, making some unique different content for it. How do you know what time of day to stream is another great question. If you are streaming in the morning, if you are streaming at night, I literally have a friend, Legion, who I was streaming with the other day. This dude has been creating content for probably as long as me. He streams the midnight hours. So he starts at 11 p.m. He wakes up he ends his stream at 6 a.m. So there's a lot of different areas that you can kind of work towards in terms of building that. It's going to completely depend on content where you can find more openings. I think the biggest thing is finding openings where there is less competition. Maybe that's right when a stream is, a bigger streamer is ending their stream. You're online at that time to see if you can capture some of the people still looking for content, and they're still going to be on for the next couple hours. But I'd say the bigger thing with that is actually having a time where you can be live and where you will actually continue to be live and can fit a window in. Because, you can build an audience, you can find people around whatever, but if you can't keep on being live at that time and then you're going to be gone the next time. They're not going to be there. These are awesome questions. You guys are awesome. I appreciate y'all tuning in. Signed up for an annual mentorship? Heck yeah, DJ. Welcome, man. Is Patreon a good service for streamers compared to alternative methods, i.e. subs, bits, etc.? Absolutely. I mean, one of the benefits of Patreon that you may not have considered is that Patreon takes 5% cut versus Twitch, which at affiliate level takes a 50% cut of subs and revenue. The thing you have to keep in mind with that too, though, is that Twitch also has benefits of like all the stuff natively on that platform. There's a couple tools that we do have recommendations for as well that you can utilize. It was something that I did for a while when I did have Patreon. I actually it was kind of like a back way of setting things up, but I did have it set up so like as people were Patreon supporters, I could still get the notification to pop up on my stream. I could still have some of those tools to implement as well as even a resupport. So if they've been supporting for 2 months, they had a little special button they could click because it was linked to their Patreon and they could send that and could still do it. And especially because I did have so much already built up with some of those series and things that I did and I had some interest on it, that's where I was able to also deliver more value to people outside of it and did spend some time on. I did end up deciding to switch off of it, and that's a whole long story with all of those things in general, but ended up moving over to Facebook and doing some things there. And now I have supporters running on that. Dude, you guys are awesome. It's fun because I don't get to usually do this too much on my main streams. I'm working on the actual videos. I'm working on the, whatever games I'm playing. It's fun to talk about some of these things. Tyler asks, how do you handle negative energy from friends who may not, who want to play on your stream? So you have negative energy from friends who want to play on your stream. I'm assuming that you're not saying that I'm assuming that that's people on your stream that don't have the energy that you want for the content you're creating. The biggest thing I'd say to that is that you are the person who is responsible for the content that you are putting out. For me, a big part of that was I just played solo for a lot of my content for years. I didn't find the guys that I play with regularly, like Aculite, who's one of my good friends I've been playing with for like 3 or 4 years now, until 3 or 4 years ago. And I've been doing this for almost 10 years, right? A lot of that was solo because I did want to have the right thing. I tried it with a lot of different people, and it's not to say that I didn't even like the relationship that I had with them. There's certain people like even Noah J456. I've been friends with him for almost this entire time. I mean, I had like 2,000 subscribers. He had like 10,000. And now all these years later, he's at like 5, 10 million, whatever. And it's like we've gone on this insane journey, but I don't really play with him the whole time. We do have some connections. We're still friends. It's just, we don't necessarily play together for every single thing, although we have played together, years down the road with some of it. It's kind of like, where does it work for the content and what you're actually putting out? And that's something to consider. Sometimes that's a hard decision or conversation to have, if you want to find the right people to play with or to stream with or to create content with, but that is your responsibility of what that content is. Just like you can get banned for what appears on your stream, even if it's just a friend that stream snipes somebody else or is saying something that doesn't go in with the terms of service. Nick, what's a good program for recording your gameplay and everything? OBS Replay as well is a fantastic tool, or the buffer. We have guides, we have tutorials on all of those different things with it. But yes, that's what I use. You can use a lot of different things. Streamlabs OBS. You can even use the OBS Live, the element with the Stream Elements one that ties in. There's a lot of different ways that you can do it, but the more important thing is the content and some of the things that we even talked about here today. Benjamin sent me a message as well. He said, did you ever doubt or not believe in yourself? I find it a struggle with some of those times when I'm not seeing any growth. 100%. There's been so many times, especially even if you go from like, there's been extremes from the very beginning of this all the way to I got a video to hit 1 million views, and then all my next videos are hitting 2,000 views, 5,000 views, 10,000 views. And it's like, or I've got 1 million subscribers on my channel and I'm getting 10,000 views. And it's not even just me realizing this, it's other people messaging me saying, dude, how do you not have so many views? And that's what I was even talking about with one of the earlier questions. It's like going back to the fact that like, that's where you have to be stable. That's where you build up a tolerance to some of this stuff, as well as like, I've been doing this for so long. I've heard all those messages so many times, and I've thought them myself as well. Some of it still gets to me 100%. Like, there's just no way around some of it. And like, I'll go to bed and I'm like, but that's what, for me, like, that's what I was even talking about earlier. Some of the exercise, me going to the gym, me getting out some of that energy has been helpful with it as well. But 100%. And even after, it's like, the thing for me too is like, once I hit something, I'm like, I'm already in my head, like, I'm not sustaining that. There's no way I'm sustaining that. So I'm like, okay, maybe this hit 10,000 views or something. I'm really, I'm only at like 1,000 views. Probably there's only 1,000 people that are going to stay or whatever it is. And just keeping that, but keeping on creating content, keep on building up the momentum, especially when I did have it and things are on the incline is huge. These are some awesome questions, guys. A lot of this, again, we discussed this in the playbook, so many of these different things, as well as even in our podcast, as well as, of course, even in this that we had here today, even if you're tuning in a little bit late with some of these. You guys are awesome. Couple questions on suggesting a reach out collaboration. This goes back to the kind of the marketing pillar in a way, as well as, of course, the community. Part of that community is not only the community of people that you're creating content for, but also that you create content with, of other people that are in the space. This has been so huge for me. It's just even like looking at, for example, when Warzone came out, like looking at what other content do I really like? Who do I vibe with? One of the guys that really most notably stood out to me is people that are playing in my style. There's a lot of people that don't necessarily play in my style that are huge slayers and great players, but somebody else that snipes that I really like. And so watching some of their content, reaching out to, example, Iceman Isaac plays in a very similar way to me. And me showing him some of my content. Fortunately, he had seen some of my content as well. He sees how I play. He sees some of my series. And it's me showing him and knowing what that is and having some type of mutual connection there and reaching out to it, even not on that front, putting yourself out there into certain cases. Especially if you do have some value, if you have a question that maybe somebody's asking on Twitter, being engaged, being a part of that community, being a part of that in general, even if it's not necessarily that own person's community, but like for me, another example of that is even within Battlefield. There are so many people that I have met through playing Battlefield over these years, creating nonstop content, especially in Battlefield Hardline. That's where I made some of my closest relationships that continue today. Stode, Westy, some guys out in the UK, as well as many US creators that like that. Those were the people that were actually playing that game. We ended up connecting with each other. And even we didn't even play together that much, but I was watching their videos. They're watching my videos. We're building this relationship. And now look at the years and years later, like these are still guys that I love looking at everything they're posting on Twitter. I still interact with them. I still engage with them. And we occasionally do play together, or even Jack Frags. Jack Frags was a guy that like, I was watching his videos. I was like, this guy's the champ, dude. He's incredible. His content is so good. And I was enjoying it for years. And now, like, I don't know how many, it's been like 7 years later or something before I ended up getting to meet him a couple of times. And then, all these years later, we managed to run some games together in Warzone. And it was like one of the coolest things ever for me. So, you don't know where some of this is going to go, but it's the same as everything else. I think a lot of people look at this and it is definitely is a term of, networking or whatever, and some of these things that maybe you don't really like to use, whatever that is, it's building relationships, and it's having other people that you are in a community with. And that's outside of even just the viewer community. That's the other people that you're creating content with that are also out there, which you think can be like, oh, this is massive. There's no way to break into any of this. Nobody, it's so big, but it's like, really, it's relatively, it's not that big, especially compared to so many other things. In general, it's pretty amazing to see you end up keep running into people and you keep seeing people, especially the people that keep on doing it for outside of like 3 months, the people that actually do it for 3, 4, 5 years or whatever. Like that can very well be today. What about 5 years from now? What about 5 years from today? What does the space look like? It's going to look different. It's going to be new. There's going to be so many new people, even just like you look at people that started last year today that have made so much progress in that time. It's the same thing. You know what I'm saying? I think we got time for a couple more questions here. I wanted to keep it within an hour. Obviously, I went a little long on some of the actual content, so I really hope you guys enjoyed everything that I delivered on that front. But I do want to take maybe a couple more questions here before we end out the day here. Just signed up. Looking forward to it, Simon. Heck yeah. Let's see what else we got here. Some of this we did talk about some of them, but I want to see if we got anything that might be a little bit different as well. Try streaming over on Facebook as well. I have a 10-second delay, even though I have OBS set to 0 delay. Is there anything you could do to get rid of this? That's where some of the platform differences really come in. That was something that was really big on Mixer. If you guys remember that one at all, if you were in the space, and that platform is now since gone. They had a really good real-time one. Twitch actually has a really good real-time connection too, and it makes it really easy to actually chat. That's one of the reasons that I like this platform here today too, is that, this one is much more real-time than what the Facebook streams are. Facebook has actually gotten better. It used to be like 20, 30-second delay. Now, for me, it's like a 15, 10-second. You can even toggle on your Facebook settings. You can toggle it to low latency. Same thing with Twitch. Same thing on YouTube. There are ways that you can toggle it to low latency. It might be slightly less quality, but then it'll be a little quicker so you can interact with people. Change those settings actually on the stream platform that you're using it on. But Facebook is still relatively newer, so it doesn't have all of those features on it that even some of the bots that Twitch has. And that's where, you can't even try to do that, master it, because Facebook is coming out with some of those things, or you can utilize some of those things now streaming on Twitch and how that is. Is it beneficial to stream a variety of different games, William asks, or is it better to be specific on a game or a genre? The thing to consider if you play a variety of different games is that somebody might really connect with one game, but completely not even care about another one. And then that can hurt your overall, even especially if you're on a platform like YouTube or like on Facebook, where there is a little bit more algorithm to it, and even to a degree on Twitch as well. You can throw people off with it. It's not to say that you can't do it. It can take a little longer, and it can also take you a little longer even just to figure out what your overall theme is. I think a good example of this is Gaming Donkey. You can take a look at him over on YouTube. And there's guys, even an example of that is like the Angry Joe show. who does YouTube. He also streams games, and he does a whole bunch of different games. But the thing is, he does have an overall genre. He has an overall theme across all of his content, across all of his games. And not only does he actually stream it and do it, but he makes it into these big hero piece type content that we talk about that can then go bigger and be a central point for the community if they're not necessarily tuned in on all the streams. You know, whether that's Angry Joe literally ripping every single game apart and finding something that's like, you know, even if it's small, like finding something to have something that he could rave and rant about. And that's like his thing is like, but that comes back to the personality and the content you're creating. So you want to find that as a content creator in general across pretty much everything. You know, obviously, I think if you just do specifically focus on a game, a category, especially at the beginning, that can be much more helpful because you're tapping into that community, you're tapping into that audience. If you go into specifically World of Warcraft classic mages, then you've got a small niche that you can specifically get into, which is, again, what we talked about today, that then you can create specific content for and deliver value for and build something around, even outside of your personality or whatever it could be. It could be super monotone and whatever. You don't have, you know, but they might be there for that. The more you can bring your personality, teach them about you, and more hierarching things that you can bring into other games too, that's where it can continue to go out from it. Some people asking even about my stream, which is awesome. Some of these are coming through as like private messages too, so you guys can just post them publicly too. That's perfectly fine. I'm sure a lot of people have these questions as well. But I think we got time for one more here. So many, and it's so awesome to see. Can a streamer make it without playing a battle royale game? 100%. I mean, look at people playing GTA. Look at people playing League of Legends. I mean, that's where even before battle royales were even a thing, how did that become a thing? It was people creating this community around it, obviously creating the game too. But a big part of that, of games even succeeding in a lot of ways, is the community and the audience around it and the people that play it. Look at Halo. Look at all these other games that people do play. And maybe there's going to be different ways to do it. Maybe it's something that you even play in one and transition to other ones. A great example of this that I always like to point out is like Cypher PK. This guy started by playing RuneScape, which is, you know, an interesting one by itself, but transitioned over time after he built an audience on that front, transitioned to multiple different games, kept building up different audiences, and then ultimately landed on Fortnite, ultimately landed on Warzone, and got into some of the battle royales and spaces. Even myself, I've played a lot of multiplayer games to build up some of my current audiences as I transitioned into other games. And it 100% happens, even if you've seen battle royale creators transition out of battle royale games to other games. The thing that is very helpful with battle royales is that they have such an intense story to them that is so easily understandable even by people scrolling by. 10 people left, last person alive wins. You're just trying not to die, and everybody's getting picked off. Hunger Games style, right? And that's where it does really connect with a lot of people, and you can make it super interesting. You can make it super entertaining. And that's what, at least for me, really resonated, especially with the live streams. I could make really good, it allowed me to make really, really good content, especially for a live setting, that I was able to do with some other games. Like even I was playing Apex Legends, a battle royale game. I started playing Escape from Tarkov. I did even better with Escape from Tarkov than I was doing with Apex Legends. And that's not a battle royale game, but I was able to present the intensity of the situation, tell that story, and hook people on what was going on and want to continue to see that. That helped bump me into algorithms, that helped like, oh man, what's going to happen next? Like I'm explaining the intensity of the situation and hooking people in and making them want to stay. That's continuing to grow. And of course, when I die or I leave a game or whatever, viewership can drop on it too. That can be a natural thing for it, but that's where understanding the ups and downs of all of this can be super helpful. Boom, guys, we are going in an hour, 40 minutes deep here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for hanging out. If you have more questions, if this has been helpful to you, I cannot stress enough how helpful Pipeline will be for you. This is exactly what we talk about every day. This is what the entire community, the staff, the team, everything is built for. All the resources, all the videos, a lot of these questions, we already have hundreds of videos up, even talking about specifically OBS, strategy, platform strategy, mentorship sessions. I am in there. I am in all the mentorship sessions, the annual ones as well, the bonus session doing Q&A. Join in on it. Take a look at it. Thank you guys so much for all the incredible questions and opportunity to talk about all this outside of all the gaming content and everything that I deliver. Again, tap that. Join in. It's 30% discount right now as well for you guys who have tuned in and hanged out on this. I love it. I put everything I could into this call, into this training for you. So much practice, learning. I mean, years of experience that I put into the playbook. Refining some of that for this session for you guys today. I really hope you enjoyed. If you did, you want to tag me in it, tag Pipeline in it, feel free, and hope to see you inside. Thanks so much, and happy streaming, guys.